everybody's called themselves kings. Everybody,
Yep.
right? Everybody's a king and everybody's a queen. Most of them are servants because servants are the first closest thing to a king. There's very few, if you look through history, conquerors. There's a problem. There's a problem that I don't like, and I'm going to conquer it. But in order for you to be a conqueror, you have to conquer yourself.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode. Before you listen to today's episode, I'd like to ask you a huge favor. So many of you listen to this podcast, but you're not yet subscribed, potentially on any platform. The more of you that subscribe and share this with your friends, the more that we can bring more content to you, more topics and more knowledge and wisdom and amazing guests. And right now, this is my passion project. So I'm not making any money from it. And it does take a lot of my time amidst supporting my incredible clients inside the Lovely Radical Academy. And I get so many messages of lives that are being changed because of having access to this exciting knowledge and support and conversation and community. And by simply clicking a button to subscribe and to share, you're part of that impact, which is pretty cool. So take a moment now, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. So I would love to introduce you all to this gentleman. His name is Joseph, and his friends know him as Purpose. And he is a US veteran and a motivational speaker and just an absolute vibe on all the social media platforms. I've really enjoyed stumbling across your content. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I enjoy this. I like doing podcasts. It's fun. It's more personal.
Yeah.
More personal.
And it's great just to connect with people from all walks of life, all across the world, who are taking this personal responsibility piece on. And I know we'll get into it, but yeah, we're both talking off camera about how powerful it's been for both of our healing journeys. And I've noticed, as someone who coaches people, who it's usually the last piece that they want to do is yeah. But before we get into it, I would love for you to tell us a bit about your story, like maybe a bit about your life and what led you to what you're doing now.
Oh wow, that's it's an interesting story. When I was young, I can start there. I was a special ed student, right? I was labeled mentally uneducable at that time, mentally retarded. They used the word back. And so I couldn't read or write. And then I think when I got about 20, I think I was reading on like a fourth grade level, fifth grade level. No, excuse me. When I was 18, I was reading on a fifth grade level. And I got out of special ed and I wanted to go mainstream because at that time, they didn't give you diplomas. They would give you certificates and you couldn't graduate with everybody. So you had to have a small graduation and it was like in the cafeteria. Yeah. And I said, I don't want that. Yeah. And then that's what led me to say, no, I'm going to do it. And I took a dictionary and I took a dictionary, taught myself how to read. So I knew then that I can do anything, right? I stopped listening to people. When people were telling me stuff, I knew that people didn't know more than me. So I went in the military, did amazing there. And I actually went in the military to get away from I had a toxic family. So I wanted to get away and test my muscle and see what type of man I am, right? So I went in the military. I enjoyed it. And it was some hard times, but I got a chance to get away.
Yeah.
I went to Iraq and I did 1 tour in Iraq. And that's when the trouble started hitting. Everything was hard until I got there. And once I got there, stuff, it was a hard tour, very hard. Took a toll on me. After that, I met my wife. I met my ex-wife. And I wish I would have taken a break and got to know who I am. And it's something about going through traumatic traumas that make you think. I knew something wasn't right. I had PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And there's something about those traumas that bring up other stuff. So it didn't give me a chance to take a moment, assess it, and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Met my ex-wife. We end up getting married, and we had children, and on to the rat races. It didn't work out. I think we were married for like 13, 14 years. And she left. And so it left me devastated. And this is how Purpose and Resilience came along.
Yeah.
And I tell people, Purpose and Resilience is only 18 months old. Even though the expansive and the explosive success of it, it's only 18 months old. It's not even 2 years yet. Yeah. And so I decided when she left to go on my healing journey. Why did I do that? Oh, Lord. Because I knew something was going on. So she left me this day, said, hey, I can't do this no more. She left me. And that was in 2018. I thought I was going to do something really stupid to myself, because what I did was, like most people, I was defined by the struggle, and I was defined by someone else. Somebody else was allowed to define who I was. So I was defined by being a provider. So to my ex-wife, I put on a pedestal. She was everything to me. So whatever she said I was. I didn't have any friends, unless she approved it, and I lived my life like that. Yeah. Right. But I was incredibly argumentative, and I thought if I would don't cheat, pay the bills, that's it. Boy, was I wrong. So once she left, right, it was like, aha, you got that moment of exposure. And I had that moment of exposure where all my secrets was there. And it was like me, the king with no clothes. You trying to like, I'm trying to figure something out. The greatest thing in the world for me, because now I couldn't lie to myself. Now I knew that I was messed up. So I took on this self-improvement. I went to the Omega Institute and went there, and Claude Anchin Thomas said, if you can be anybody, learn to be yourself. Well, to improve, you don't know who you are. I said, well, who the heck that is? Who is that person then? I don't know who I am. And so I went on this discovery to find who I was. So I got off of social media. I went to the worked out. I was 375 pounds at the time. I got off of social media. I stopped dating, stopped drinking. I didn't eat out. I stopped everything. I started just cooking my own foods. And what I found out was I enjoyed life.
Yes.
I figured it out, but it was painful.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Because it was, it's like, every day was an image, like that was something you did that it's like you looking at yourself and you're like, it's like it's replaying and you're looking at yourself. You're like, oh, snap, I did that. I didn't want to do that. And you cringe every day because, like you said, it was the last piece. Everybody else starts, and nobody told me it was, no, you wait. You don't do self-improvement. You do self-improvement last. You do everything else. Wrong? Yeah, man, because I was crying every day. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't define myself. And I was crying every day. And it was like, it was terrible, because I had to get used to being alone. I had to get used to not having any distractions. I had to get used to the chaoticness in my mind. And I had to get used to the voices that you hear with it, to tell you can't do anything. Childhood trauma came up. I started remembering the things that happened to me as a child. Yeah. And I mean, vividly, like, oh man, I remember when this happened. I remember my mother did this. I remember my mother. And it wasn't that I just remembered. I remembered how I felt. And here's the crazy part. You take away the distraction, you got to live in that moment. You got to process it. Yeah. So I ended up going to therapy. I got an amazing therapist. Then I found out I had a food addiction and even an Amazon addiction, like most people.
Yeah.
And
we've all got something.
Yeah, you got something. So I started working on myself, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna be my authentic self. And I started to be the type of person I am today. Do I get it right? Not all the time. Am I a little bit direct? Yeah, I'm direct because people do a lot of things to themselves.
Yeah.
And that was where Purpose and Resilience was born.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing ride. I mean, I still can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
And I cannot keep up with it. And it's growing. And I meet so many people. And I'm like, and to me, I'll be thinking I'm harsh. I'll be like, when I go back and look at my videos, I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But it was something someone did to me, and I'm glad that they were harsh with me. So
yes,
my purpose
same.
is,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And I think that's the piece. And some of my content can be quite harsh and forceful as well, because I play with the polarities of the masculine and the feminine a lot, but a lot of the time it's just that I'm seeing a past version of myself and I'm kind of sick of it. And I'm like, no, you can do this. Like, sort your shit out. And so, yeah, sometimes mine's like that as well. And it just is what it is, because it's what I needed to snap me out of that victim drama mode of why me. Yeah. I love that you touched on the definition piece, and like it's what I teach people is like we never get taught we don't get taught who we are, and we don't actually get taught how to learn who we are, and we don't get any time to do it. And so I think I heard you say recently, so many of you give your definition up to somebody else. And so you've mentioned a few things already in what you did. What do you think is a really powerful thing to start creating your definition or your purpose?
The first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge that you did that, and you have to acknowledge the feeling of it, man. Yeah. How did it feel to know that you allowed somebody to misscrew your life and your words and how you feel and who you are? And once you acknowledge that, do you accept the definition? And do you accept the fact that that person controls you? And they can say you're a piece of crap person today. Yeah. Are you okay with it? Yeah. And the moment you start to see that and break it down, you're not going to like it. Now, if you accept it, if you're one of those people who say, yeah, I'm accepted. And then you have to take out the piece of paper of life and a pen and piece of paper of life and say, what am I? And if you have no clue, it's okay to have a blank piece of paper and say, I have no clue. That's better than you trying to remodel. Sometimes starting scratch is the best thing. And that's what I did, you know? And if you say, I don't know, then okay, what do you want your life to look like? And you write it down and say, I put mine on a piece of paper and put it on the door. This is my definition. And I never allowed anybody to tell me otherwise or to remix it or to put any or add anything in, something that I did not define myself by. But you have to be honest with yourself. Do you like it? And if you don't, change it. Change it.
I love that. Yeah. I also heard you say recently, and you were speaking into like confidence for men, I think. And you said there are a lot of men saying that they don't want a relationship or they don't need someone, but that you wouldn't need to say it if you didn't, you'd just get on with it. I don't know if you remember saying that, but I see it. So I create some videos about like, we've got a bit of a mating crisis going on. No one's really being with each other at all. It's a whole rabbit hole, but there's always a lot of people in the comments being like, yeah, screw it. I'm staying single forever. And it's interesting to witness. And I also heard you say something about men respond to resistance. That's why the gym's so powerful. So I'd love to hear like your take on like in a world where many men are feeling defeated, whether it's by their past or the world and what's happening in all the aspects, like how can a man rebuild himself and rebuild confidence and create that resistance to potentially have a great relationship?
It's easy. It's 100% easy, and a lot of men make it difficult because they have viewed the world as being complex. Nothing in nature is complex. A tree has a certain load. It has a weight load, a weight bearing. It was born with its limitations of how much it can carry, right? People are no different. If men was to say, I need to rebuild this life, and you say, okay, I'm going to take it apart. And what, I'm sure you did the same thing I did. You get excited, you get all ready for self-improvement, self-development. You're going to take on all
the
these
fun
challenges.
Stuff. Life's going to get so much better.
Exactly, right? And it don't happen that way. Because you're like, wait a minute, I gotta do this childhood trauma thing. Yes, you got to do this. What you do is you take all the stuff. If men would start just one place, the gym. And why do I say the gym? Is because men do respond to resistance. And what happens is you give the body exactly what you as a man need. It's not resistance with emotions. It's with the body. And you start with the body, right? If you have to lose weight, you start and say, I can change this. If you take the things in your hand that you can change. Emotions and stuff takes a little bit of time. You know that, and I know that. But one of the things you can see immediate results is the body. Yes. And also something about having resistance in your arm and pushing up. If you start with 25 pounds, you grow and you start to see and feel different with immediate results. If I would have took the spiritual way of self-improvement, it would have take me 2 to 3 years. Yeah. If I would have took the motions, it would have took me another 2. But if I start with the body, then I can see immediate results in 30 days. Yeah. And that's what I did. So resistance not only conditioned my body, but it conditioned my mind. And it got me back to who I am as nature. If I can only lift the body, my max body can lift 800 pounds. That's what I can. But if I'm starting with 25, I have so long of a stretch to go to 800 pounds. But it's that journey within there and the resistance in that builds you up. So when you listen to people who say, I don't want to date or I don't want a relationship, and to get back to that, they are afraid because they have lack of a belief in themselves and they are looking for certainty. Yeah. But with resistance, there is so much uncertainty. You and I know, you go in the gym today, you lifting 30, 40 pounds, but somewhere, and today may not be the day, but it's that resistance and knowing that the gym will always be undefeated. Weights will always be undefeated. That makes you always want to conquer yourself. And so when you start with the body, you start with resistance, it makes it okay to say, if I get in the next relationship, if she doesn't want to be with me, I'm okay with it. Yeah, I got to put myself first. And it makes it, and it makes you have a foundation. And if men go back to building foundations for themselves, it's not for a family, we know that, but for yourself first, and putting yourself first, then when you date a woman, it makes it so wonderfully easy to be in a relationship because there's no complexity. She doesn't have to worry about you because you're taking care of all that. You have built that resistance and that stretch of your mind and your muscle to be able to endure. But it also makes you less tolerant. You're like, I'm not going to accept this. I have a standard. Yeah. And that's why I say men should start with the gym first. If you don't do anything but just walk on a treadmill. Yeah. That's why I say start with the gym. It builds so much more in men.
I love that. And that was a big part of my journey as well. Like I had a lot of chronic health issues and mental health stuff and all the labels that were given to me throughout my 20s. And I don't believe if I hadn't gotten my health in a good space, I don't think I could have gone to the depths of the emotional stuff. And that just came up naturally. Like the healthier I got, I was like, oh, this is coming to the surface. But it's like you said, you've created that foundation. You can handle it more because you know you're good. You know the capabilities of you. So yeah, it's awesome. And
I tell people that, I tell men, you can't handle don't start with emotions. Like I'm really big on going to therapy, but I didn't start with therapy first because I have to be able to handle that. And the emotion takes more out. If I would have started with emotion, I would have probably still would have been broken and still would have been in a bad place. But because I started with the gym, it was able to build up my resistance to be able to handle when the load of emotions come in. So when I got a divorce, it was like, oh, today I got to show up in court. All right, cool. All right, that's it. Take care. Yeah. I wasn't crying. I went out for ice cream the same day.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if I would have that's why I say, if you tell men, like like my buddy, he's into, men's mental health. We cannot tell men to handle emotion. That's the worst way to do it. Yeah. You got to do the body to handle the emotion. If you do it that way, I think you'll have results.
Yeah. And I think there's a big expectation. Like I talk a lot into how the feminist movement's kind of become a bit toxic, and it's, we now want men to be all the things, including emotionally intelligent, except the way that a man deals with emotions doesn't look the same as the way that a woman deals with emotions. Like, they don't necessarily have to go to big circles and sit and have the incense burned all over the place. Like, and it's fine. Like, there's just so many different ways. So I love that you touched on that. And also, I don't know if this was your experience, but even just getting to somewhere like the gym gets you on a different table. It gets you in a different, like, community environment, I would imagine, either rather than being with the people who are drinking every weekend or at home on your own. How important is that community piece, the quality of community that you're in, do you think?
It's one of the biggest things, and here's why. Everybody in the gym is on the same page, self-improvement. Yeah. Nobody's judging anybody. How can you judge someone when you're in there because you're not perfect? And especially the gym. I go to a really iron horse, rough gym, bodybuilder place. No one's judging anyone. Yeah. It's a family-oriented gym. And when you start there, you're going to build such a community, because people, when they don't see you there, they're like, hey, I missed you the other day, man. And they're sending you DMs. Hey, buddy, hey, what's going on? Everything's okay. And it builds a camaraderie of people of support. And it's not like people who want to go out drinking, hey, that's okay for them to do that. But then if you build somebody where you are improving in your life, it's so needed.
Yes.
Because self-improvement is extremely low. Extremely. And it's almost rare that you find somebody that can be there with you, especially in the first initial steps. Especially when you're sorting your life out.
Yeah. That's kind of dark and not too happy all the time.
Yeah. And I tell people, that's why I created Self-Improvement University, because it's like, hey, I want you to have a group of people who you're all on the same page. And my self-improvement child is extremely hard. And I'm here like drill sergeant to get you to understand and to build up the camaraderie, so you understand that you're not in this alone and you're all going through support. So when you cry, that person cries. Yeah. So, and when you, because like me and you know this, when you picking apart everything, it's the worst part. You just like, man, my life is over. I didn't know. Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. And you crying and you mad and then you upset and then you're like, I don't even want to drink. I don't want to do I'm just alone. What am I doing today? And it's like, it's the calm, it's the storm before the calm, but back, And it's like, oh man, you go through all this crap in the beginning, but then when you start to work on it and chip away and pick apart and do this and take this and say, okay, I'll deal with this later. I'll deal with this now. I'll deal with this. But the foundation to me for men, and I think for anybody, I don't even like to be like that, is the gym. You have to have that.
Yes.
And now, and self-improvement is the most unpopular thing. So I make content like that. I was surprised I even blew up.
Yeah.
But people don't do that, you know?
Yeah. And it's awesome that it is really starting to blow up now, because I think a lot of people are coming to that end point of like, oh, there's something I haven't done. It's probably the thing I'm refusing to face. And look, there's other people doing it. So that's why I appreciate your message so much. I've heard you speak to men and women in your content, and I'd love to hear, just in your experience, we won't get too like social issue-y about it. But like, how can women best support like their men or men in general to be the men they want to be? In your thoughts?
That's an easy one for me. Don't enable them. If they come through my course, don't enable them. You cannot. I tell women this, and they get mad at me. Your nurturing hinders a man from growth. They don't like me saying it. I'm dead serious. Your nurturing for a man has to stop. And because I say this, I use this analogy all the time. A woman can subconsciously turn a man into a child, and she doesn't know she's doing it. And what I mean by that is, you're supposed to lay down with this person every day to make a child, make a baby, make love, whatever the case may be. He's not your son. The world must issue him whoopings in order for a man to get it. Yes. Men are not rarely lied to, right? They're not. Women have a constant and consistent bombardment of lies told to them from the time they wake up and from the time they go to sleep, and they don't know the truth. Men, on the other hand, you know. So the world is hard. So you can't soften the blow of the world, because he doesn't work like that. What you can do as a woman is to stand on the sidelines and cheer him on, and then cheer for him at the finish line once he completes his task or what he needs to. But the moment you enable him, oh, it's okay, honey. Oh, you gained 1,000 pounds. It's okay. That's what I heard. You don't say anything.
Yeah.
And what happens is he becomes a shell of a man, and he becomes argumentative. He becomes passive aggressive. He doesn't know who he is anymore. He has no definition of purpose anymore. He doesn't have a purpose. He's waiting for you to tell him. And now he's mad and upset because you keep changing the definition of who he is. It's never defined who he is.
Yeah.
And we don't benefit from weak men. We don't.
Yeah.
We benefit as a whole, as a society, from strong men. We do not benefit from men not knowing who their purpose are. That's why you have so many men who need multiple women. I gotta have this, I gotta have that woman, I gotta this one. I'm unsatisfied, I'm unfulfilled. Because you are a child. Because your mama said you was good at everything. And no one told you the truth. Like, hey man, you can't sing. Prime example. How many times you looked at the American Idol and this person with their mother, and their mother said, baby, you can sing. And they get out there and they're terrible.
Yeah.
Their mother told them that they were great. Yes, you're great in your mother's eyes. But in reality, you're not.
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of great news. Like, you get to grow, like you get to work on something. And yeah, you touched on the multiple women thing, and there's, again, another massive rabbit hole, but there is such a thing in society where there is like a few amount of men who are capitalizing on lots of women, but then the women are upset, except the women, and I love this quote, like, women are the gatekeepers to sex, and men will rise to the standards at which they set, except women aren't setting a very high standard for the thing that men essentially want. And so we've got this problem, and then all the rest of the people are just tapping out, being like, it's too hard. And everyone's complaining. It's like, but everyone could just adjust their behaviors slightly, and it's hard.
I agree.
And we'd have a totally, it is very simple. I love that you say that a lot. I heard you say recently, again, that men are saying things like women need to submit, and then you were challenging the men on, have you submitted to your purpose? And I love that. And the same could be for women. Whatever women are saying men need to be, how are they being that for themselves? Super. It's a big concept that I teach. And we're seeing things like, I know in the States, like 60% of men are actually leaving the workforce. There's large numbers who aren't dating, aren't having anything to do with women because of, this world that we're co-creating together, and feminism and new age society and all the things. But
I don't think it's feminism though.
What's that?
I don't think it's feminism.
No.
I don't think it. You know what I think it is? I think it's we are paralyzed. I think it's oversaturated amount of information from wrong sources.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of men who say, "Oh, I don't want to date anymore," and if you ask them, well, give me an example of the last time you had a terrible woman or whatever. They'll give me some example of something that happened when they're teenage years. And then what happens is, and I've seen this all the time, they will send me links to people's YouTube channels of what women are saying. And it's like, listen, it's social media. They're not telling the truth. And it's to get clicks and likes because they can get paid for it.
Yeah.
So if let's say if we go back to YouTube where you wasn't getting paid for that stuff, right? You made the content and you wasn't getting likes, you wasn't getting the money you're getting, and they made it the way it was. You wouldn't see none of this content. A lot of men are absorbing ridiculous amounts of toxic content that is distorting them as to what women are and what they want. That woman is saying what she wants. Unfortunately, it's probably not even true. She's just using it for clicks and likes and sensationalism because that's the world we live in now. People want to see people get beat up more than people be in love. So now we're in this. It's not feminism because there's nothing wrong with women standing up for their rights.
It's not one side or the other. It's just lots of stories that people have shared instead of just dealing with healing the story or changing the story. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I think it is. I don't think it's feminism or, whatever the man side of or red pill stuff, which I don't agree. And what it is people are in pain. And people go to this content and they absorb this content, but they don't understand that that's one side of the coin. Like somebody told me, I don't hold the door for no woman. I don't know that because women don't like that. And I'm like, where'd you get that from?
I like that.
This is what I challenged them. I just did this about 2 days ago. I don't hold the door because women don't like that. They just say this. I said, okay, when the last time you held the door for a woman? He said, oh, I did it the other day. I said, okay, what did she say? Thank you. Oh, so what he said online doesn't apply to that woman, correct? He was like, yeah. So why are you holding her to a standard from a woman online?
Yeah,
I agree. I tell people I agree with feminism. I agree with this. You should be equal. I should agree that nobody should tell you what to do.
The core purpose of that is great.
Now when you get into the men bashing and men need to, now that's when it starts to veer off. But the core of feminism is righteous and pure. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So if men get back and start to say, I need to have my own mind. Because I was like that. I went through that period. I had a red pill period where I listened to this stuff online. I was in a broken place.
It feels good. Like, yes, there's a reason that I'm a victim.
Exactly. It teaches the victim mentality and it keeps you in it. Yeah. And it tells you, hey, all hope is lost. And it wasn't until I broke free from that and I realized this stuff is full of it. It doesn't apply to real life and it doesn't apply to me. So when you kind of take the rose-colored glasses off of this stuff, you see it for what it is. It's not really real. People are just hurting, and there's people out there capitalizing off whatever stage people are in their life. And people like us that talk about self-improvement, they're like, oh, no. They're ready to, stone us because we're like, hey, look, don't you want to be free? Yeah. Free yourself.
You could actually choose to feel better.
Who you want. Exactly. So it's one of those things that I think that we need to just take a step back and actually, we need to tell people stop absorbing content. Like in my class, I tell people for the next 30 days, you're not allowed to watch social media. None of any kind. Yeah. And when I did that, I found out that a lot of people got their thoughts back. They were like, oh, God, I never thought, I'm eating less. Why am I eating this? I don't like this, or I'm eating that, or I'm eating healthier. I'm not going out as much. I'm not being as impulsive. Oh man, they're getting their life back. So I just think it's social media. People just need to stop watching certain things.
Absolutely.
It's not healthy.
Yeah, and I love that you touch on that, because it's also like social media can be such a toxic thing, but it can also be such a tool. And that was what really started my journey years ago, is that I realized I was getting more of what I chose to click on and watch. So I started like actively, and I do this with my clients. I'm like, cool, we do a detox phase, and then we do a cleanup phase where it's like you have to unfollow every news cycle, every person who's teaching about narcissism and gaslighting and all of these things. Like, just unfollow all of it, remove all of it, say no to all of it, and start clicking on. I give them playlists for like motivational videos and speeches, and it's when you clean that up, you teach the algorithm the new you. And then like I jump on my social media now, it's just like sunshine and roses and motivation and inspiration. So you can kind of flip it and make it work for you. But yeah, it's a big thing that I kind of speak a lot against. And there's a powerful piece, I think, in finding the victim mentality for a moment to realize, oh, it's not just happening to me. It's actually just a human experience. And I could go down the rabbit hole of all the reasons why and how to be aware of it, or I could turn that off and just go, why did this happen for me? And how can I grow from it? You did a live recently and you talked about a concept of the servant, the king, and the conqueror. And I'd love for you to tell that story or talk into that a little bit.
Yeah, so you can choose, right? And I revamped it earlier. You can choose to be a servant, a king, or a conqueror, right? And one of the things that I try to teach men is that a lot of us know how to serve, right? We know how to be a king, but the greatest thing is you can be a conqueror. That's what you're designed to do. As a man, you're designed to conquer. As a woman, you're designed to conquer. Somebody mixed it up. And what happens is we're supposed to only have very little servant. I was just talking about this with my buddy because he wanted me to explain. And what happens is that everybody's called themselves kings. Everybody, right? Everybody's a king and everybody's a queen, right?
Kings and queens, except they're not behaving as such.
Exactly. But most of them are servants. Because servants are the first closest thing to a king. There's very few, if you look through history, conquerors. People who actually rise to I think her name is Vladar. I'm saying her name wrong. Sure. I just read about it last night, but it's a woman conqueror, right? She's considered a conqueror. She has conquered kings. Here's the thing. We talk about Conan the Barbarian. He's a conqueror. That's a fictional character, right? But we talk about some of the Ragnar Lothbrok, who's Viking. He was a conqueror of kings. You see the difference? It's a huge difference. It's because you see something wrong and you say, I need to change it. I always use Thanos as a conqueror. You didn't see Thanos the king. He was a conqueror. There's a problem. There's a problem that I don't like, and I'm going to conquer it. But in order for you to be a conqueror, you have to conquer yourself.
Yes.
Before you can do anything, before you can ask something from somebody, before you go do anything for somebody, you must also serve. You must know how to serve. You must also know how to be a king to know that that's not what you want to do in order for you to be a conqueror. Genghis Khan, another one, conqueror. Confucius was even though he was a general, conqueror. General Zhang, conqueror. These are the people that we remember in history because they made such a paramount and pivotal movement inside who they are, but they conquered themselves. Yeah. So if you tell a woman, say, stop trying to be a king and be a conqueror, she looks at life differently. You can instantly turn that crap on because you know exactly what a conqueror is. You know it because that's what you were born to do. Yes. I hate to use Bible because I don't like religion. I don't like religion too much. But even in the Bible, God was a conqueror. Yeah. He had to say, let there be light. He didn't say, well, I'm a God, I can do. No, he was a conqueror. So there had to be something there. So conquerors are always marveled in histories. Achilles, conqueror. How do I know these names off the top of my head is because they were conquerors. Conqueror, Pata was a conqueror, right? And people don't understand this, and people are like, oh, no, but what about king or you can't name a king because there's so many.
Yeah. But and there's usually terrible stories about them for the most part. Yeah.
But the conquerors, you come in and said, it was every time a conqueror took over, it was always better.
Yeah.
He left it better than what it was.
Yeah.
He did what he needed to do. So you have to pick one. Yeah. Most people are servants and they're calling themselves a king.
Yeah.
Because that's their limitation. I want you to be a conqueror. I want you to conquer yourself because you got to start with yourself. You have to know your own savagery and your own cruelty. As my brothers say all the time, you say you have to know your own cruelty to be able to understand others. And you have to, your cruelty, that's how you will know your compassion. That's how you get compassion for people.
Yeah.
Because you understand the capabilities of your own cruelty. Yes. So I tell people, I want you to be a conqueror. Like King Leonidas, one of my favorite, conqueror. Spartans was conquerors. And they trained everybody to be conquerors. So if you can't, you can have one king, but you can have hundreds of conquerors and everybody can conquer their own piece of whatever.
Yeah.
Why not that be better? Why that's not better?
Yeah. I love that. And because you see, name any social issue and there's a lot of people out there that'll be screaming about it and demanding that the world change. And perhaps there's an installation of like, I'm going to be the conqueror for this cause. And yet the only way that actually happens is, as you said, when we actually conquer ourselves. If we have a firm foundation within ourselves, we know who we are, then we can conquer any cause. The interesting thing I've noticed is most people who do that conquering of self then don't feel like they have to scream at the world to change. Yeah.
And they change.
Yeah. And that, like, I talk all the time a lot about the ripple effect and just the impact that doing that work in ourselves does for us, because it doesn't just do it for us. It leads by example for like even just 5 people around us, and then they lead by example for another 20, and that moves so fast. So I love that you touched on that, which brings me to my final question, which I ask everyone, because leadership and the word leadership was a big thing for me starting to the businesses that I do and all that, because I'd seen it done really well and I'd seen it done really poorly. And leadership, is whether you're leading one child or a corporation or the world. I'd love to hear what your experience or your thoughts of leadership are for you.
Leadership is a complex thing because you got to say what if a lot, right? And I usually say, what if that was me? Because I got to lead myself, You got to be able to make the hard choices, and you have to be okay with people not liking you. Yes. And that's the hardest part of anything in self-improvement. Even in my organization, I have to make the hard choices, even though people may not like them. And leadership, you have to understand that you're going to have to have enormous amount of self-esteem, because the ability to please people has to be subdued for the purpose. I believe in being on your purpose. I believe in your purpose being everything. And that means that relationship, as anything, you must lead your life in order for you to be the better version of yourself. So that means that even if you were somebody today and your life, you're leading your life on your purpose, like you have the podcast, you're on your kind, you may want to be in a stadium full of people. That means that you got to be a leader within your life. And that means that you're going to have to maybe Thanos snap somebody out of existence for you. And you have to be okay with it not being the best decision. And I've even had to do that. And I had to be okay with people not liking me. I had to be okay with people not liking my content. I get people sending me nasty grams all the time, like, you're too direct, or you're this, and you said this, and I'm not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
But that's when the belt and the mantle and the definition of a leader has to be in your life. You have to know how to do certain things. So leadership is hard, but you got to be up for the task. And the thing is, most leaders don't know they're leaders until they're faced with it, you know, and they're faced with an impossible task only you can solve. And that task is yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Love that. And I mean that, you know, whether whether you're leading a massive group of people or you're leading your own child in your own home, it kind of all comes across as the same thing, right? Like the more you know yourself, the more you can have a difficult conversation with your child rather than just pandering to whatever they want. Well, I'm sure there's different types of parenting out there, but from what I've witnessed and noticed is the parents even who do lead by example and bring that work back to them is so powerful for their children as well, which is awesome to start seeing. What's happening for you in your world now? Like, what are you working on? And where can people find you and what you do?
Oh, great. I'm transitioning from TikTok and going from social media to actually YouTube.
Great.
So people can find me on YouTube, Purpose and Resilience. I'm going to be having my podcast come out there, and it should be out in the end of the week. I'm working on a really big project called Project Purpose. This is going to be the place where my self-improvement challenges are really going to have a home. That's coming out in April. So I'm trying my best to get that done. It's going to be an actual school, a class where you will learn everything from how to be better with your finances, how to be better with your food, how to be working out. You're going to learn how to put yourself first. And it's nothing like my class. It's nothing like it. And it's going to be for 30 days. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because this is going to be the last one before we actually put it out there to the mainstream.
Yes.
And have people, you know, people want to join and maybe do it every month or so. But yeah, Purpose and Resilience is really, really growing. It's growing faster than I can imagine. I can't keep up with it. I cannot. Now it's true.
You can, and you will. And I love that you're releasing that program as well. It sounds very similar to the ones that I run. And it's just the baseline, right? It's health, it's mind, it's finances, it's connections and how to communicate. And when we learn that in ourselves, like everything just gets to expand.
And I want to put in there relationships, but I'm trying to find a way to do that. But I may do that at the end for people to learn how to have a healthy relationship, how to forest a healthy relationship. And that's going to be the pivotal piece for them. I need people to get that. They got to get that so they can be better. They have to be better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love that. And the relationships piece it's one of my favorite to teach myself with my clients because it really comes down to communication and how different communication is between, like the communication needs of men and women are so different. They're almost geared against each other on like a emotional, mental, but also even just like a chemical level. Like if a woman sounds aggressive, he's going to go into like survival on a chemical level. So it's like this really interesting push-pull that we can learn to talk to each other in a different way and build together in a different way. So it's really, it's an awesome.
That's hard. Yeah. You're talking about the heart. Now I didn't start with communication. I'm there now trying to get that last piece, like, because it's so different. I'm learning, I'm reading different books about it and stuff, trying to get the different communication styles. Like I have a direct communication style.
Yeah.
And I call out people's behavior. I'm very big on that, especially if they do something to themselves. Yeah. When they mess up themselves, when they come to me, I'm like the final road and I'm not happy because you have done so much damage to yourself in the sake of other people that I'm in your butt then. I'm like drill sergeant. I don't play.
I'm a bit the same. I'm just like, all right, delete all the dating apps, delete all the phone numbers. Just we're going cold turkey on everything, and it works every time.
You know what's crazy? I just told somebody, like, somebody got mad at me, and they said, "Well, I said on a live one day that I had 500 applicants, but only 34 make it in my class, graduate." Yeah. And the lady said, "Well, if you was a lot nicer, you will probably have more." I was like, that's not the intent. The intent is not to have 500, because no one will like it if it's 500 people who graduate.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that must be easy. Yeah. The intent is to be hard. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. And sometimes my experience, you got to charge them more money, and then they actually do the work and value it because there's enough skin in the game. But people don't like when you say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to get to, is to start charging for it and to be able to say, okay, you're going to have the investment. And that's going to weed out so many people in the application process.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And I'm really excited for you to start doing that.
I can't wait. Send your invite. Watch. You come see it.
Yeah, amazing. That'd be great. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. As I said, I love the message that you share and the way that you speak. It's incredibly powerful. And I'll make sure that all of your links are in the show notes so that people can find you and follow along and tune in as well. And to everyone else who listened in, we will catch you next time. If you like that episode, then make sure that you click here to check out some of the other conversations with my amazing guests and friends. And if you really liked it, you can click here to subscribe so that you get notified each time a new episode goes up. And you can click down here to share it with your friends if there's something that they might also like to know. See you next time, lovely.